Welcome back to Collaboration Conversations. I'm Regina Partain Bergman, your co host, and my co host, Pearl Cox, for this show is unable to be with us at this time. So, again, I have the pleasure of having a guest co host that I am thrilled about. I met Davis recently and was so impressed with him and said, we have to do this. We have to come together and do this. And so he agreed to be a co host for us today and to bring us five amazing panelists. So, Davis, as I said, I want you to tell us your story. I want you to tell us a bit about your journey. It is amazing to me. Tell us a bit about your journey and who you serve and why.
Just kind of a brief synopsis of my journey. This is what I share with people. I am currently a public speaker and developing a consulting business. And one of the things that I share, one of my keynotes is from homeless to high performance. And my journey was I was kicked out of my house as a teenager. I was homeless for several months and then ended up going into the military, got my life together, and have gone on to become a doctor and an actual sport coach. And then now I'm working with other people in different aspects of coaching and really want to try to get out in front of people and be able to share my experiences. I have a couple of different topics that I speak into. Obviously the success side, trying to overcome difficulties and trying to triumph over adversity that you can encounter in life. But also being able to take some of the things from your background and how can you use it to be able to serve other people. And one of the most recent things that I developed, I just wrote a presentation. It's called The Power of Persuasion, Lessons from a Former Military Interrogator on Sales and Leadership, where I'm taking the things that I learned being an interrogator for military intelligence. And it's really interesting how it parallels and applies to sales. And being able to talk to people and be able to connect with people. And then being able to, the reason I combine leadership with it is because in sales, you're trying to lead them. You're trying to lead them to buy into you, buy into the product that you're trying to offer and who you are and what it is that you're trying to sell. So that's why I combine both of those concepts together. But again, I'm also a sport coach as well. So I do healthcare consulting. I'm currently working with a couple of law enforcement organizations and fire department organizations on developing their training programs so that they can have career longevity and maximize performance as well.
Amazing. I love hearing your story. Every time I hear it, it just you've accomplished so much and overcome so much and such a great example to others. And I love the way that you give back, the way that you give to the world. So thank you, Davis. I'm so excited to have you here as our guest co-host today. Would you introduce our panelists, please?
Yes, absolutely. We'll go one at a time. I'll start at the top as it appears on my screen. So the first one that I want to introduce is Alison French with Alto Solutions. And I would love for her to be able to tell who she is and what she does.
Thanks, Davis. Thanks, Regina. I'm really happy to be here today. My name, as you said, Alison French. Alto Solutions is a small women-owned consultancy based in the Washington, D.C. area. And my focus in what I do is working with leaders and working with teams to really help them manage through changes that might be going on and really build stronger leaders and stronger teams. So I do that through coaching. I do that through consulting. I do that through facilitation and training as well. And the emphasis is always on making connections, which is why I'm so happy to be here to talk about collaboration, because it's always about what are the connections we can make as humans between one another? What are the connections that we have with our brain? There's a lot of really fascinating neuroscience out there that helps us understand why we do what we do, why other people do what they do, and how we can leverage that as leaders. So I love making connections. I love meeting everybody here. And I'm looking forward to having this conversation.
Great. Thank you, Alison. Up next, we have Jennifer Loehding. She and I met a few months ago, actually, and she has an awesome podcast that I had the opportunity to be a guest on. And Jennifer, tell us about you.
Yeah, absolutely. So my company is Life by Design, and what I do is I work with entrepreneurs, predominantly women, and help them to establish healthy strategies and habits so that they can grow their business, become more effective, and increase their productivity, and hopefully prevent burnout. And my background, as I mentioned before we jumped on here, 22 years in Mary Kay. So I was in leadership, worked with women for a very, very long time. And what kind of led to this whole idea of life by design was when in 2012, when I was diagnosed with a rare nerve condition that affected the left side of my face. And because of the condition being so debilitating and really altering my life, it forced me to have to really go in and deep to figure out like what's going on here and how do I solve this problem. And so I learned a really neat thing in that journey about belief systems and how a lot of the things that we hold on to can manifest into our health and show up in various ways and in various parts of our lives. And so Life by Design, the podcast, everything I do is kind of a creation of that journey that I went through. And that's what I hope to help people do, is to live healthy, create those strategies so they can become more effective.
That is awesome, Jennifer.
Mm-hmm.
Up next, I have Steve Reed with Steve Reed Ministries. He and I actually met fairly recently. We were on another collaboration and networking, speakers networking event that was online. And he and I just happened to live near each other because the hosts of that were actually in England. So he and I actually met recently and had a face-to-face visit and had a great visit. So Steve, tell us about you.
Yeah, Davis and Regina, thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to share. My background spans 67 years. My dad was a minister. My mom was a teacher. I was planning on going to seminary after college, and I graduated with a degree in psychology. But in my senior year in college, I decided I didn't want to go down that road. So I got into the next best thing, and that was outside sales. And over the next few years, I really started to dive into personal development and self-improvement. And I was introduced to the concept of personality temperaments using the Greek methodologies. A few years later, I was introduced to DISC, and I just absolutely fell in love with DISC and the whole concept, and found myself just sharing information with people. And along the way, somebody would say, well, Steve, I've got some personal things. Can you help me with that? And then one of the guys I was working with said, hey, my wife and I are having some challenges. Can you help us? And I had already been through a number of continuing ed type programs on marriage and relationships. And all of a sudden, I found myself, without planning it, I became a life and marriage coach. In that journey as well, I was at a convention back in 1981, and there was a crazy man. I grew up in a real small town. There was a crazy man prancing across the stage. He's down on one knee. He's got this water pump. He's pumping and pumping and pumping. And I realized this man is really he's a lunatic. And why can't you just stand in one place? Well, I fell in love with Mr. Zig Ziglar. And for those of you that know Mr. Ziglar, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And the more I listened to him, the more I realized he had so much value and information that I could learn from. And I started learning from him and some of his colleagues. And about 8 or 9 years ago, I got very involved in the Ziglar organization, became one of their licensed coaches. But in that process, I had gone through another very intense continuing ed type program that really taught me a lot of insights about emotional trauma. And so for the past 14 years, I've been doing both executive coaching as well as trauma coaching, helping people get past all of the junk that they have in their lives, whether it's from a divorce or physical, sexual abuse, whatever those cases are. And I've been blessed to help literally hundreds, if not thousands of people. I've lost track. But now what I'm discovering when I'm dealing with individuals, whether it's on a personal level or an executive, we all have baggage of some sort. And if you keep holding on to that baggage, that's going to delay you or stifle your progress. So my practice, I help people get rid of that baggage and then move on past that baggage so that they can live a more victorious life. So my company is Stephen Reed Ministries and Stephen Reed Coaching, and I love helping people get to a level of exceptionalism.
Steve, that is awesome. I love your description. He's got such a great voice too. He's got such a great announcer's voice. So next up is Kevin Hunter with Hunter Realty Group. Kevin and I met quite a while back. He and I are part of a Bible study group together, and we've actually collaborated and done some things together for social media and filming and advertising type stuff. So Kevin, tell us about what you've got.
All right. Yeah. First and foremost, I'm a husband. I'm also a girl dad. So those are the two, kind of priorities for me at any given moment. I've also been in outside sales for 20 plus years on the enterprise software side. And most recently, my latest chapter has been focused on real estate. So a lot of those skills obviously translate. A lot of my teammates in the past left sales and went to real estate, and they all would call back in a few months and say, the way you take care of your clients, you would absolutely thrive in this environment. And I figured, well, if I'm working this hard for somebody else, then why not do that for myself? So the entrepreneurial bug bit me, and so here I am. And then of course I've got some crazy zooming camera action, so enjoy that ride. But yeah, I've known Davis for a while. He was my first victim because social media is big in real estate, and so I was kind of promoting him and some of his speaking engagements and some of the consulting he was doing, and he was helping me build content for my YouTube channel. So it was great to get to meet him, and then obviously to be part of this conversation about collaboration, right? Because I've never really ever been successful by myself. It's always been a group of people that we have kind of pulled together and together figured it out. So kind of the team collaboration mindset is one that I've had and really kind of parlayed into success over the past 20 plus years. So very interested to dive into this and obviously hear everybody else's experiences and share some of my own.
That is awesome. That's fantastic. What a group. I am so excited to hear all of your comments and your thoughts about collaboration, because you are all amazing examples of collaboration, everyone in this room, which is, I'm sure, why Davis invited all of you. So I think I'd like to start, though, with a comment that Alison made. You said that you talked about the connections that we make with humans, with our brains, and how we leverage that as leaders. So can we kind of dive off from that, from that point for a moment and talk about how do we leverage our collaborations as leaders? How have you done that in your life and business? And just feel free to stay unmuted and dive into the conversation, folks, and contribute. So how have you leveraged your collaborations as a leader?
Well, I think the first thing when you think about collaboration, there's got to be this idea that there's a mutual benefit for both parties. It's not just a take, it's not just a give, it's a give and take, and really, collaboration itself is you're working together. You're working together, even though you may have separate goals as individuals, you're coming together collectively for a common goal as well. And so each and every one of these individuals that's on here, they all truly have a great heart. They have a great purpose that they are trying to serve. And I've made connections through every single one of these individuals. And so which is the main reason that I brought them all on here, just because they're great people, and I want people to be able to know who they are and hopefully be able to make some connections with them as well and be able to develop some more collaborations out of that.
Excellent.
Davis, something you just said sparked something for me, in that the whole piece of collaboration is really making the pie bigger for both people. And if you've done any research into styles of conflict management, and conflict being really just a difference of opinion, of course, but people see conflict as something bad, conflict can be very productive if you approach it with a collaborative mindset. And so you're looking at it as, maybe we have some different opinions, but we have a common goal and we're trying to reach that goal. And how do we do that so that it's a win-win for both of us? Not that, okay, I'm giving up a little bit, you're giving up a little bit, and we're compromising, but how are we making that pie bigger? And when you talked about that, it really sparked that thought for me, and how that's really important to a leader as well. You know, that it's not always just about the leader. There's this concept. I do a lot of work in the federal government. There's a concept of servant leadership, that you are serving the people that work for you rather than the other way around. And that's really big in fostering collaboration as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, you know, something that you just said was, you know, people kind of go into some of these things of more about what can I gain out of this, and
Right.
what am I going to have to get up or lose out of this, rather than saying, what are we going to achieve out of this?
Exactly.
And really approach, and the intent behind it is really important, and having the right mindset. And sometimes that involves having to, you know, as you know, Steve put it, overcome some baggage. Sometimes you have to change your mindset before you really start diving into this, and having the right approach. Because if you're constantly trying to make contacts and networking with people, and things just aren't working out, and things aren't coming to you like you think they should, it's probably because there's something going on between right ear and left ear that needs to be addressed first, as far as what your intent and purpose is in it.
Very true.
That is so true. You know, I oftentimes, when I'm working with either executives or with couples, I use the analogy of a football team, and recognizing that the ultimate goal of that team is to win the game. And it's not the offense, it's not the defense, it's not the special teams. They have to work in a collaborative format. They have to be working together, because if the defense is slacking, then that means the offense has to really pick up the pace a lot. Or maybe it's the special teams. No, they all have the same common goal, and that is to win the game together. So that's one of the keys. But from a DISC perspective, when you're working in a collaborative type of a program, there's going to be that person or people that will be the strong leaders. They're going to be charging forward. They don't care so much about the detail. They're going to be moving forward. I'm in charge, just follow me. Then you've got the people, wait a second, we're not having any fun. We've got to have some fun along the way. Then you've got the support people. They're in the background. Can I get you a bottle of water? Can I carry your briefcase? Can I get you another bite to eat? Whatever. They're supporting any way they can. Then you've got the people that are the detail people. And if you don't work together collaboratively, then you're going to be fighting each other, and you won't have the success that you want as quickly as you want. And there may be a lot of potholes and speed bumps along the way. So you've got to work together to make sure that you are in sync together, knowing that you have a common vision, a common goal in place.
Yeah, and it's funny that you kind of referenced sports, right? And so I hear a lot of times it's referred to as complementary football, right? So the offense has to play well, and the defense has to play well. And in real estate, we have to have partners that can execute at a high level. When you think of the trust that our clients are giving us, right? This is probably going to be the biggest purchase that they make in their entire lives. I have to have a mortgage lender that is really going to take care of them, right? I have to be an insurance company that is really going to have their best needs in mind, right? And so not only do I have to give value to my partners, right, as we collaborate with our clients, but it has to be reciprocal. And I've always been a big fan of less is more, right? So I don't want to work with 5 or 10 different lenders. I want to have a really strategic, beneficial, multi-directional relationship with all of my partners, where we're both seeing value and we're both taking care, right? We have that single thread, that thought of like the client comes first. So if you can align with somebody who has the same mentality as you, then that's a great symbiotic relationship, and your client is always going to win.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think if you compare it between, large organizations, because large organizations, you have all these different departments that really they're supposed to have an ultimate goal of making the organization run. That's supposed to be their commonality and their goal. But if you've worked in corporate America or any other organization where you have all these different departments, there always seems to be more conflict than there is really collaboration and working together towards trying to, and so ultimately they don't ever really achieve their goal the way as effectively as they could. The ideal thing with this is, all of us are entrepreneurial type mindsets. I kind of envision it kind of like the Marvel movies. You have all these superheroes that have their all individual powers and abilities, and they could stand on their own, but they choose to come together for a common goal, against a common purpose, and be able to bring all their resources together and be able to work together in order to be able to achieve that goal.
I love that analogy.
Well, and I would add to that too, that, when we're talking about collaborations, I'm listening to everything that you guys are saying, and it's all wonderful, by the way. I think relational building is huge in all of this, because we're trying to build relationships with people, right? And there are times that we're going to give more, and there are times we're going to give less. And that's where the working, I think, comes together. And we know as entrepreneurs, especially, Davis, you brought this up in the beginning, how you've, been given contacts or reached contacts through us, and we all do that, right? And there are times where we give more than we get. And I think that gets back to that win-win. We have to look at the bigger picture of what we're trying to do here and not keep score. It has to really be relational building and understanding that we're doing something for the greater good of what we're trying to create.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah, because when people start keeping score, that's when you start delving into those psychological aspects of you start developing disillusionment, then you start getting disengagement, and then it just starts to fall apart from there.
Yeah, very good point. And Jennifer, to your point on the win-win, I take that one step further. It's got to be a win-win-win for me. It has to be a win for you, a win for me, and a win for our clients.
Good.
Or a win for the the environment or the world, the whatever.
Yeah.
So
I pulled that from Stephen Covey.
No.
If you've seen his video, he does the great thing with the arm wrestle. You guys have seen it, where he does
I don't think I've
an
seen
old
that one.
video, and he does the arm wrestle and pulls the guy up there. Every time I go back to the win-win, I think of that video. It's Stephen Covey.
I will have to go look that up. I don't think I've seen that one.
Definitely.
That's awesome. Excellent. So what impacts have you seen in talking about the win-win-win, and that it's bigger than you and I. And by the way, I love what you each have said about it's not a tit for tat. A collaboration is not okay, I'm going to give this, so I'm going to get that, and it has to be equal contributions. It's not, right? It's all working together for a purpose or a cause.
Mm-hmm.
What bigger global impacts outside of our little worlds have you seen from collaborations that you've either been involved with or been on, watched or something? How have you seen collaboration have a bigger global impact than our little world?
I can talk about something that's going on here. I don't know that it's quite globally yet, but there's a couple women in the networking circle that I'm watching right now that are collaborating. And one of them I'm meeting with to collaborate with some stuff on my podcast, but they're creating a movement, and it's a women's movement that is basically helping them shine a light. And so what's interesting is I've been watching this particular gal. She came on my show probably right before the pandemic. So about 2019, she came on, and she was sort of kind of finding herself, really trying to figure out what she was doing. And I've watched her over the past, from 2020, here we are in 2023, 3 years now, and to watch. And what's really been neat is how her circle has grown into some of these other communities of people that I know, influencers in other communities. Now they're coming together and getting larger and larger. And so I think, when we have things like this, where we're watching people that have great influence and can really rally people together for a good cause, it's inspiring and it's fun to watch them. So I'm excited about what she's doing. I'm meeting with her on Tuesday, and I'm just excited about what she's got going on.
That's awesome. I love watching the growth in people. It's always so fun. I have a lady that I've worked with for a number of years, and I was visiting with somebody about this morning, is like, watching her from the first moment I saw her until now. And she may have attended 10 classes with me of, of something I was teaching. And on number 10, she goes, I get it, because it's that place. We're at different places in our growth. So I love what you're talking about, this gal that you've been watching her growth for this period of time and seeing how she's changing the world through that growth. Mm-hmm. Alison, you look like you had something you wanted to add.
Well, yeah. I mean, first of all, I love that, Jennifer. I mean, I think that's such an amazing thing that they're doing. And it was reminding me of an event that I went to some time back where they had a panel discussion about belonging in organizations and how they have a lot of, in the HR part of the organization, they actually have directors of belonging, or DEIAB, they add the B on to all of that, because it does all go together. Pardon me. And I was thinking about a partnership between Indeed.com and the Born This Way Foundation, which is Lady Gaga's foundation, that is basically primarily for youth who are diverse in different ways, whether it's gender, ethnicity, whatever it might be, but it honors the youth as they are and not who anyone wants them to be. And it was really powerful to see a large company like Indeed.com partner with them and really help spread the message, because as a corporation, they have a lot of ways to get into people's minds and hearts. And so that was something that, while Jennifer was speaking, I was thinking of this on a sort of a larger scale level, and how great I thought that collaboration was. And as somebody who is very supportive of the Born This Way Foundation, I actually have a transgender child that I feel is such important work. It really meant a lot to me personally.
Awesome. Anybody have any other comments on that?
Well, not on that in particular, but you'd mentioned in the original question about kind of a global impact. And I remember that another director of sales and I were tasked with coming up with kind of best practices for our organization from a sales perspective. And so we started putting all these thoughts and ideas together and reaching out to peers and individual contributors and other leadership. And we started gathering all this information. And we said, wow, this is really powerful stuff, right? This is kind of the 101 of how to be successful in sales and take care of your customer. And I thought, you know what? I wonder if they're doing anything like this overseas, right? Because we had offices in Europe and around. And so we started reaching out to them. And it was funny how they were doing some of the same stuff, but had a really different approach to it, right? And so I think it's the difference between countries, right? How the U.S. thought versus Europe. And so by our collaboration, and I think maybe Alison kind of alluded to it earlier, is once you start adding pieces together, it becomes a much larger initiative. And instead of just us in the U.S. kind of coming up with our own ideas, now all of a sudden we were collaborating across the pond, if you will. And we had the ability to add a bunch of additional content that really accelerated our success. So just kind of thinking a little bit more globally than just, hey, here in the US, what do we need to do? We really impacted the organization across all of our continents. And they were able to take some of the things we were doing and that they weren't, and kind of vice versa. So it was really this holistic approach to sales, where if we wouldn't have collaborated globally, then we wouldn't have had the ability to incorporate thoughts and ideas and processes and methodologies that we just hadn't considered.
Yeah. Love that. How many of you absolutely love the fact that we live in this day and age when we truly get to be part of a global society and make an impact? And of course, as many horrible things that happened during the pandemic and the shutdown, there were a lot of really good things that came out of that as well. One of which is that opportunity to truly collaborate with people around the world, to serve people around the world. And, I work with 3 young men in Africa that, I would never have had the opportunity to meet previously. In fact, we're doing a collaborations call on Monday morning. One of them runs a school, and particularly one of his goals is to give girls an opportunity to go to school. He's in Masaka, I think. One of them is in Uganda, and he has a community initiative to help particularly women and girls, because their lives are just terrible. And the other one is a young man who's a philosopher and really trying to impact youth in Nigeria. And so it's just amazing. I mean, those opportunities would not have happened 2 or 3 years ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, some of the big things that I saw, alluding back to Steve mentioned Zig Ziglar. One of the things that I had the opportunity to be able to see was he would have these motivation seminars, and he would have just some of these major impact personalities that would be able to come together. And I had the opportunity to be able to go see one not too long before Zig Ziglar passed away, and it was just such an amazing experience. And I mean, we were in a down at the American Airlines Center. I mean, that's 10,000 plus people all gathered together that are being impacted by, in a positive, motivational way, to inspire them to push towards greater things and to be a greater version of themselves. And I think if we all continue to work towards trying to be a greater version of ourselves, we would find a lot more synergy. But in that search for trying to find a greater version of ourselves, we can't be so self-focused. It has to be with an idea of, it's not just about me. It's about everybody around me as well.
Right.
And that's how you build trust too. Oh, sorry, Kevin. I was just jumping off of what Davis said. That the idea of a low self-orientation, that you're not focused just on you, you're focused on the others. Again, that sort of servant leadership mindset really helps to build trust. And in collaboration, you need to be able to trust the other people that are involved.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I was going to tie into the keeping score piece, right? That I do keep score, and what I keep score of is like, how much value have I given to my partners, right? Because I always feel like if I've done a good job of vetting and understand, hey, culturally we're a good fit and we think alike, professionally and whatever effort we have, I'm more concerned about, am I giving them value, right? Because I always feel like I get value from my partners because I've done a good job of identifying, how we're going to be able to grow together. But I do keep track of how much value and am I bringing value to them, and I'm making their lives better, and our clients through who we've worked with. So I would kind of turn that around and say I do keep track, but it's not how much value they bring me, but it's like, am I doing a good job on my end to bring value to them?
That's a good scorecard.
Yeah, it's a good scorecard.
Kevin, along with that as a tag, when I'm sitting down with somebody, whether it's a first initial consultation visit, whatever the case is, my goal is always to bring them more value than what they are expecting. And not that I'm trying to compete or anything of that sort, but I want people to walk away from any meeting that I have with them and say, oh my gosh, I am a better person now than I was an hour ago or yesterday or whatever the case is. I always want to leave them with more than what they were initially expecting to see.
Yeah, and I think Davis can kind of speak to how we started working together. Selfishly, I needed to get content for my social media channels. And so I was reaching out to some of the men in our Bible study. And so I reached out to him because he again, his story is so unique and interesting where he is in this chapter of his life. I thought, well, I'd really like to learn more about that and kind of capture that. But we started talking about it. He's like, well, how much am I going to have to pay you? And I'm like, you're not paying me anything. You're doing me a favor by helping me create content. He's like, you're helping me. You're doing me a favor by helping me get my story out there. And I really want to get into speaking and consulting. Yeah. And so, obviously it has to be a value add for everybody, but again, to the point where, your partner should feel like there's a deficit because you're doing so much for them. And then by doing that, you obviously get stuff in return as well.
Yeah. That law of reciprocity kicks in, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it can take a bunch of different shapes and forms, right? It's not always monetary, right?
Absolutely.
Right. When you see someone like Davis and you really want to kind of help them promote, where they're going, the key to any relationship is giving. And so whether it's professional or personal, the more you can give to people, the more they want to invest in you and spend time with you and see the value in you. So, keeping score of what people are giving me, I've never really been focused on that. I've always been focused on, am I adding value to this relationship, right? People talk about are you making deposits in the bank? That's a constant focus, right? And that's kind of the servant leadership that Alison is talking about. Are we taking care of our people, our collaborations, our clients, whatever they may be?
Right.
And just from my own personal, because of how I got, going in life, and I had a lot of trust issues early on, and to a certain degree, still have some here and there. Steve and I have talked about that a little bit, but and you develop this mindset, well, the only person I can depend on is me, and it was a process to get out of that mindset and start understanding that not everybody that you encounter is out to get you, or out to let you down, or not going to be there for you when you need them to be. And out of that, then when I started growing as a person, growing as a professional, started understanding that when you start networking with people and you start collaborating with people, initially you may start off taking more than what you're giving. But what I have found is that over time, those opportunities to be able to give back to the other will come up, and it will come back, and it will it kind of circles back around.
Yeah. But Davis, there are times though that you may give and give and give to somebody, and they are never in a place to give back to you.
Mm-hmm.
But they may refer somebody else to you. Yeah. Or it may be 2, 3, 4 generations away, and somebody says, hey, I heard about you. Mm-hmm. Or it may just be something completely out of the blue and says, you know what, God just put on my heart, I need to give this to you. Mm-hmm. And it's the way that, God does some absolutely incredible things in giving to us when we least expect those things to come through. Mm-hmm. And so I am always about giving as much as I possibly can.
Yeah. What I found is that the more you give, the more it keeps coming back to you.
Oh, absolutely.
But then that allows you to be able to give more.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just keep paying it forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you put it out there at some point, right? If you put it out there and don't worry about when it's going to come back, it always does.
Yeah.
I have a group that I work with. It's actually a group I started up. It's a networking group, nothing formal. But I started it up back in 2018 when I kind of realized there was all these people that I wanted to see and connect with. And we never were able to get it together. So I said, hey, I'm going to go to a local bar and have a glass of wine. Anyone who wants to come meet me. And a whole bunch of people showed up, and we started getting together the third Friday of every month. I bring it up because the group has grown to over 200 people. They don't all show up on Fridays, but we do have a list, a networking list, and I keep my ears and eyes open for opportunities to share. And so I am, sharing different things over email with them, different kinds of opportunities. And a lot of times people come back to me and say, how do you have time to do this? You give so much to the group. And for me, it's not even a thought. It's so second nature. And it's something that, I see something and I say, hey, someone will be able to make use of this. This is going to benefit someone. Might not be me, but it will help someone else. And so I'm using this group that I started up to really help connect people to opportunities as well. And, do I get anything out of it? Maybe goodwill. But eventually I do. I mean, there's people in the group who will refer me to someone else, like you all were saying. Mm-hmm. But I don't expect that. I do it because frankly, because it feels good. It feels good to share and connect and help others.
Absolutely. 100% agree with that. I know the first thing that I'm looking at when I meet someone is to learn as much as I can about them so that I can introduce them to somebody else that can help them along on their journey.
Mhm.
You know, who do I know that would be of value for this person?
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
you know, just that's always what I'm looking for to start with in a conversation is who
Yeah,
can I
and
introduce you to?
in my backpack, I have business cards from all of my major partners that I work with to support clients. And I can't tell you how many times I'm digging through my backpack. They're like, "Oh, are you going to give me your card?" I'm like, no. It's for somebody I work with. Right? It's like, I wish I could generate as many opportunities for myself as I do my partners. But you know, if you are laser focused on taking care of your clients, their needs may not always be the ones that you can provide value or a
Exactly.
solution to. Right. So I have
Exactly.
cards that I can physically, you know, I'm old, right? So I'm a card guy, but I pull it out of my backpack and here you go. These guys will be able to take care of you, or she will be able to, you know, completely blow you away with the value that she offers, right? So, yeah, so just it is a mindset, I think, to Alison's point, where, you know, you don't have to really think about it. It kind of has to be in your DNA a little bit, right? When I talk to other people about collaboration, they're like, yeah, I need to get better at that. And you definitely can, right? But sometimes it's just who you are, right? And if you have a giving heart and you truly care about people and you want to see people succeed and you're laser focused on your clients having a great experience, then it's easy.
Yeah. Absolutely agree.
Yeah, I definitely think that every time you meet somebody, there's something there to always be able to take away from, and that's the thing that I've encountered people that they have an energy level that I'm like, I need to be at that energy level. You know, that's something I need to work on, or you know what, I need to tweak my mindset about there. There's something that you can always be able to gain from everybody that you meet, and that's why when people, you know, ask to do a one-on-one, and almost never do I turn it down, because you know there's always something there. And I've had people that I've met that we walked away, it's like, yeah, there's really not anything we can do to help each other in this, but you know, it was nice to meet you, and I'm you know, and then it turns out later I ended up coming across somebody that needed the service they had, and I still had their card and just said, here, call this guy, you know.
Yeah.
You know, Davis, you made the comment about anticipating things. I'm reminded of a story that I heard many years ago about Sam Walton. He was walking around a variety store, or just a five and dime, for those of you that remember five and dimes. He's walking around a store, and the store is in total disarray. And he's got one of his lieutenants that's around with him, and the shelves are a disaster, and the lieutenant says, "Mr. Walton, we need to get out of here. They have nothing to offer us." And about that time, Mr. Walton looked on the top shelf of one of the racks that was there, and he says, "Do we have that in our stores?" And the guy's like, I don't think so. He says, "We need to figure out a way to get that in our stores," whatever that was. But that's an example of those people that you may be in a world of chaos or disarray, but there may be a divine appointment for something that's going on. And he was always looking for that opportunity that could enhance somebody else. And I think that's one of the things that we've lost the art of in many ways. I'm not suggesting this group has lost that art, but we need to look for the lessons that we can take away from every single scenario. And I can't help but quote Zig Ziglar: "You can get everything in life you want if you just help enough other people get the things that they want." So if we're out helping other people, whether we get anything in return or not, it's going to come back to us. So look for those little opportunities that may not present themselves as opportunities. They may be an obstacle that's opening a door for an opportunity.
You know, the term that came to mind as you were saying that is, or the thought that came to my mind is how much richer our own lives are as we approach life with that attitude. You know, that our own lives are so enriched as we go out of our way to help others and to make that impact that we're all capable of making, that positive impact in the world.
Well, it's a mindset that you have to have. You know, shameless self-plug. 2.5 years ago, I had a I had an accident. I jokingly tell people it was a skydiving accident, and the parachute failed and I broke my leg. No, I actually just fell off a ladder. But as I'm sitting on the ground looking at my ankle or my foot pointing in the wrong direction, I thought to myself, God, I know this is going to hurt. So please take the pain away. He did. The drugs were wonderful. And then I said, God, what lessons do you want me to learn from this? And I knew there was a lesson. And the third thing was, who am I supposed to teach these lessons to? And as I'm laying in the hospital recovering from that surgery, God just started giving me lessons that I was learning already. And it turned out to be 35 different lessons that became a book called Lessons from the Crutches. And so when you look at whatever those things are that appear to be something really devastating, it could actually be something that's opening a new door for you to explore that new door, that new opportunity.
Yeah. I do a lot of training, and one of the things I talk about is having that growth mindset. And I use an acronym because a lot of people will say, well, what if I do XYZ, whatever it is, and I fail. And I use the acronym FAIL, First Attempt in Learning, FAIL. So, and people remember that because it's an acronym. So they remember First Attempt in Learning. It's not, you didn't fail. It's just your first attempt. You're learning something from it. You're going to take that, and then you're going to get better at something, or you're going to help somebody else, and you're going to impart wisdom to them. So, it's not a fail. It's a first attempt in learning.
I love that. That's awesome. Folks, I can't believe it, but our hour is gone. Jennifer, we'll take your comment and then we'll do our wrap up.
I was just going to add in about collaboration really quick, because again, all of you said some incredible things and you guys have all touched upon this, but I think being willing to think outside of the box is important in collaborating. And I think a lot of times when we go in, and several of you have said this, we go in with a set mindset of how things should be versus coming in from the win-win. That allows us to get out of, I know me personally, I'll give you an example. Me personally, a lot of times when I go into things, I have to watch myself because I will sometimes this is how I have always done this, and this is how I'm going to continue. And then I will meet somebody and go, this isn't going to work the way I've always done it. It's not going to go that way. And I really like this person. I like what they're doing. I like the work that they're doing. And how can I work with this person? And so I have to get creative and think outside of the box on how we both can come out ahead. And again, it goes back to what I said earlier. Sometimes I'm giving a little bit more. Sometimes they're giving a little bit more. But the idea is, hey, I trust my instinct. If I like somebody, I like what they're about, I like what they're doing, I want to make it work. And I want to figure out a way to make that collaboration go through.
Yeah. Awesome. That's a great final comment there, Jennifer. It's so true. We have reached the end of our time for our discussion. So I'm going to turn it over to Davis for our wrap-up round. Davis, would you have everyone share their final thoughts and their contact information with us? Would you?
Absolutely.
Lead that?
Yeah, Alison, you want to go ahead and start with your final thoughts? And
Sure. I'll go back to the beginning of when we started this conversation and thinking of collaboration as a way to make the pie bigger for everybody. I think going in with a growth mindset, knowing that if you think you fail at something, you don't necessarily fail. You have some nugget of information. Giving out what you can with no intention of necessarily getting it back, but eventually you do. So it's this growth mindset, this idea of together we can make that pie bigger. Mm-hmm. And you want me to give contact information, so you can contact me at Alison, ALISON, at altosolutionsllc.com. The website is also www.altosolutionsllc.com. And you can look me up on LinkedIn as well. Love to connect with everybody.
Thank you, Alison. Jennifer?
I'm going to say that collaborations are important. We can do things by ourselves. Sure, we're great at the skills that we've got, but we're going to get there quicker if we can learn to incorporate people into our lives. And I always go with the same thing. You know, I learn something new from every person that I meet, and that's what I stand by every single day, that there's always something to learn from them and we can impart something on them. And I'm pretty easy to find. I've got several podcasts out there. I tell people, if you look up my name, you will find me. But I do have a website that's jenniferloehding.com, and everything is linked through that. So thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah. Thank you, Jennifer. Steve?
Yeah, I'm going to give my contact information first because otherwise I'll forget about it. It's info@Stephen Reed Ministries, and that's Stephen with a PH. STEPHENREED ministries.com. And like Alison, I use acrostics or acronyms a lot. One of my favorites is the word HOPE, HOPE, helping others open doors of opportunity, prayerfully pursue, and do it with enthusiasm.
Thank you, Steve. Kevin? Kevin, you're on mute.
Yeah, it's the pleasure of the home office with two big Pyrenees rescue dogs. There's a mailman a block down the road that shut a door or something. But yeah, no, just to kind of sum it up. Yeah, I mean, collaboration is king, right? Aligning with people that bring other value and skill sets to your sphere. Making sure that you're giving, right, to Alison's point, having that servant leadership, continuing to invest, and making sure that you're aligned and focused on the one thing that truly matters, which is taking care of your clients. So I have a bunch of social media. Probably one of the best ways to reach me is NTX for North Texas Home Hunter. All right, because I'm in realty, but you can also reach me at hunterrealtygrp at gmail.com. So I look forward to hearing from everybody.
Thank you, Kevin. And I am Dr. Davis McAlister. My final thoughts are part of the reason that we're here and I've invited all these great individuals is because we've been able to come together and collaborate on something somewhere along the way and being able to have some mutual benefit. And as long as we continue to work together with a common purpose, you're always going to achieve your goal. You just have to keep proper intent and focus and put you out of the way. So I'm easy to get a hold of. You can go to my website, drdavismcallister.com. Email is info@drdavismcallister.com. And just a little bit of a shameless deal. I also work for Parker University. And so if you need great chiropractic care, please feel free to look them up and go get some care.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. This has been amazing. You are an amazing group of individuals changing the world, and I love it. And this is having all of you here today is how I get to do one of the things that really excites me, which is being part of the ripple effect that you're creating, because I get to help share your message out with the world. So thank you for giving me that opportunity. And thank you folks for joining us again today on Collaboration Conversations. We'll see you next time. Bye for now.